So I think we are about ready to get started here. So good afternoon, everyone. For the record, today is May 31st.
I'm sorry, this is the court reporter. You are really muffled.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
No?
Let us, we have a microphone. I think the sound system is picking up the mic.
Maybe just give us one moment and we'll see if we can fix it. Sorry about that.
All right. Is this better?
It is much better. Thank you.
Not a problem. All right. So I will start over. Good afternoon, everyone. For the record, today is May 31st, 2022, and the time is about 1:01 p.m. We are here at the Prescott Valley Public Library, located at 7401 East Skoog Boulevard in Prescott, Arizona. This is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed management plan for the Prescott Active Management Area for the 5th management period. My name is John Riggins. I'm the statewide planning manager at the Arizona Department of Water Resources, and I will be the hearing officer at today's hearing. With me is Natalie Mast, AMA Director, responsible for the management plans. Natalie has been involved in the development of the proposed management plan and will give a brief description of the proposed management plan, including a summary of comments provided by the Prescott Active Management Area Groundwater Users Advisory Council on the draft management plan, data in support of the proposed management plan, and a summary of changes from the 4th management plan. Also with me today from the department are Kelly Brown, Deputy Counsel, Maggie Martin, Management Plan Specialist, McKenna Welsh, Management Plan Specialist, Sharon Scantlebury, Docket Supervisor, Madison Moreno, Municipal Data Specialist, and Bradley Neska, Industrial Data Specialist. We have a court reporter present via the webinar to record and transcribe what is being said today. So it is important for speakers to please speak up, speak slowly so that the court reporter can accurately record your comments. If anyone has difficulty hearing me or the speaker, please let me know. For those in person, if you haven't already done so, please sign the sign-in sheet at the table near the entrance. There are also speaker cards on the table. If you'd like to speak today, please fill out a speaker card if you have not already done so, and submit your card to Sharon or to Maggie. For those on the webinar, we have provided a link to a virtual speaker card in the chat box on the screen. The chat box can be opened by clicking the speech bubble icon at the bottom of your screen. If you would like to speak via webinar today, submit your virtual speaker card and staff will call on you when it is your turn to speak. Everyone was muted on entry to the webinar. Please unmute yourself when it is your turn to speak. For those participating via telephone and not on the webinar, and you would like to make a verbal comment, please state and spell your name, and we will call on you when it is your turn to speak. If you would not like to make a comment, please simply stay silent. We will call on telephone participants to speak after the webinar participants. Persons presenting comments at the hearing, whether in person or virtually, will be subject to a 3-minute time limit to ensure all who wish to speak receive an opportunity to do so. The purpose of this hearing is to provide members of the public the opportunity to make oral and written comments on the proposed management plan for the Prescott Active Management Area for the 5th management period. The proposed management plan is available on the department's website. We will not be responding to questions or comments at this hearing today. However, we will do so in writing as part of the formal management plan adoption process. If anyone has any questions or comments on issues or programs that are outside the scope of this hearing, you can contact me or one of our staff after the hearing. The hearing will be conducted in a formal manner. As I mentioned previously, a court reporter is recording everything being said. A copy of the transcript of this hearing will be available for review at the department's office and will also be posted on the department's website when it is available. At the conclusion of this hearing, I will be accepting any written comments or documentary evidence that anyone may wish to submit to the department regarding the proposed management plan. The department will also accept written comments until 5 p.m. today. Written comments submitted up until 5 p.m. today should be submitted to the department's docket supervisor, Sharon Scantlebury, by email. And I will spell her email. It is sscantlebury@azwater.gov or fax at 602-771-8686. A copy of the public notice with Sharon's contact information is posted on the department's website, and her business cards are located on the table near the entrance if you would like one. Within 30 days from today, the director will make and file in the department a written summary and findings with respect to the comments and evidence received at this hearing and prior to 5 p.m. today. If in the findings the director decides to adopt the management plan, the director will make and file with the department an order adopting the plan pursuant to the findings. Notice of the order will be sent to all persons who signed the attendance sheet today and to all persons who submitted comments or evidence prior to the close of the record. Please make sure you provided your physical or email address to receive a copy of this notice. The director will also publish a summary of the plan, findings, and order of adoption once a week for 2 consecutive weeks in the Daily Courier newspaper. Pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes sections 45-571 and 45-114 subsection C, any person may file a request for rehearing or review of the order of adoption within 30 days after the second publication of the notice. The last date for filing request for rehearing or review will be identified in both the mailed and published notices of the order of adoption. If no one files a timely request for rehearing or review, the plan will become final. If a timely request for rehearing or review is filed, the director will have 60 days after receiving the request to issue a decision on the request. The director may grant a rehearing, grant review without a rehearing, or deny the request. Any person may seek judicial review of the director's decision to adopt the management plan as provided in Arizona Revised Statutes, section 45-114, subsection C. Within 30 days after the plan becomes final, the department will mail notice of the conservation requirements contained in the plan to all persons who are required to comply with the requirements. Any aggrieved person may request an administrative review of a conservation requirement within 90 days after receiving notice of the requirement as provided by Arizona Revised Statutes, section 45-575, subsection A. A person who requires additional time to comply with a new conservation requirement may request a variance within 90 days after receiving notice of the requirement pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes, section 45-574, subsection A. So now I will turn the hearing over to Natalie Mass, who will describe the proposed plan in greater detail. Natalie?
Thank you, John. Good afternoon. My name is Natalie Mast, and I am the AMA Director responsible for the management plans at ADWR. The purpose of this presentation is to present data in support of the proposed management plan and to provide a summary of the comments made by GUAC members. I will also provide a brief overview of the contents of the proposed plan and the changes as compared to the fourth management plan. The management plans were established as a part of the Groundwater Management Act in 1980. The plan being presented today is the fifth and final in a series of plans established in that act, and the conservation programs contained in the plan are designed to achieve reductions in withdrawals of groundwater. The initial draft of the Prescott Active Management Area 5th Management Plan was published in January 2022. From January to April, ADWR accepted comments and worked to revise the plan in response to those comments. The GUAC comments, which I will summarize shortly, were received during this time period. In April, ADWR published an updated draft incorporating many GUAC member and stakeholder recommendations. On April 19th and 26th, a public notice was published in the Daily Courier announcing today's hearing and opening the formal comment period on this plan, which closes today at 5 p.m. ADWR will publish written findings from today's hearing within 30 days and may adopt the plan at that time. As long as adoption of the proposed plan occurs within this calendar year, the conservation programs in the plan will go into effect on January 1st, 2025, and will remain in effect until the legislature determines otherwise. The recommendations received from GUAC members covered a broad range of topics. Where comments pointed to errors or data inconsistencies, we worked to verify the information and make corrections. Additional style and data recommendations were incorporated in some cases. The comments received were diverse in nature, but some recurring topics included concerns about the proposed recharge and recovery requirement updates, concerns about safe yield, and general typographical and data clarifications. The full text of any written comments received during both the informal and formal comment periods are posted on the management plans page on ADWR's website as they are received. I will now provide a brief overview of some data related to the AMA and a summary of the proposed plan. The Prescott Active Management Area is one of 4 original AMAs established as a part of the 1980 Groundwater Management Act. It includes the Little Chino and Upper Agua Fria subbasins. This graph shows how groundwater demands have changed over time. The top dark blue line is a total statewide groundwater use. The middle green line is total active management area groundwater use for all active management areas. And the bottom light blue line is Prescott AMA groundwater use. It's hard to see this graph, but will be more apparent in a later slide. While statewide and total AMA groundwater use has been fairly flat since the early 90s, in the Prescott AMA, total groundwater use has fluctuated over time and peaked in 2002. The graph on the screen now shows how water use is broken down by sector in the Prescott AMA. The different colors represent the sectors. Gold is municipal, teal is agricultural, red is industrial. Notably here, you can see that agricultural uses decline over time as municipal and industrial uses increase. This graph shows the supplies used to meet those demands in each year. The red line represents groundwater and the black line represents effluent. The yellow line is surface water. As noted earlier, groundwater use has fluctuated over time, peaking in 2002, declining in the late 2000s, and remaining fairly steady since then. Effluent use has increased significantly over time in the Prescott AMA, and total water use in the AMA has been fairly flat over time, averaging about 23,000 acre-feet per year. Next, I'll provide some information about the proposed management plan and some additional data specific to some of the programs contained in the draft plan. One of our major goals for the 5 MPs was to streamline these documents. Much of that streamlining could be achieved by referring to supplemental information rather than including extensive detail within the plan. For example, rather than extensively detailing hydrologic and geologic structures and conditions, we point to the most recent model report. This both allows the management plan to be streamlined and also ensures that the reader is directed to the most up-to-date information available. This was particularly important for the 5th management plans due to the indefinite timeline of this plan. By streamlining, we were also able to condense the document from 12 chapters to 8 chapters. We added an executive summary, which provides a brief overview of the document and helps to point the reader to additional detail throughout. The proposed management plan contains 8 chapters, many containing data, analysis, and background information. Chapters 4, 5, and 6 also contain the continuing mandatory conservation programs for agricultural, municipal, and industrial water users, respectively. These programs were designed to reduce withdrawals of groundwater. Another way we streamlined the document was moving much of the data online. Previous plans have extensive data tables printed in the document, but those tables were unable to be corrected if errors were found and could not be updated with additional years of data over time. The growth of interactive tools online has allowed us to move much of that previously static data online, allowing us to provide additional detail and to improve our transparency by making more of our data more readily available. In addition to interactive tools and downloadable data on our data page, we also published a comprehensive report, which includes a description of the aspects of safe yield, how ADWR analyzes those aspects, and the status of each AMA with regard to its management goal. We plan to present more information about this report at the next GUAC meeting. The result of these structural updates is a plan that is more accessible, easier to navigate, with data and references that will remain updated despite the indefinite timeline of the 5 MP. In addition to the structural changes, the 5 MP also contains significant updates to the conservation requirements. In the Ag chapter, the updates are broad and occur across 3 programs. The default conservation program for Ag is what we call the base program, an allotment-based program based on historic acreages and historically grown crops. For this program, statute allows for a 5% reduction of the top 25% of water duties within a series of limitations. For the BMP program, which is an optional alternative program, extensive updates were made to the list of BMPs, or best management practices, and minimum points requirements were added to or updated for several categories. These updates were made in collaboration and with the recommendation of the BMP Advisory Committee, chaired by Scott Riggins. Finally, there is an additional optional alternative program for the 5 MP, which allows someone farming multiple IGFRs to combine the allotments of those IGFRs with a 5% cut to the aquifer, enabling that person to submit a single annual report, to use any of that combined allotment anywhere across the combined footprint of those IGFRs, and encouraging the use of the water on the most efficient lands while still contributing to reductions in withdrawals of groundwater. In the municipal chapter, we again have multiple programs. The major updates were to programs for large municipal providers or those supplying more than 250 acre-feet of water for non-irrigation use. The GPCD program is the default program for large providers who have a designation of assured water supply, and providers who are not designated may not participate in the GPCD program. The 5 MP draft language contains an updated calculation for the GPCD requirement, which uses a rolling average of the provider's historic GPCD to calculate the provider's target. The calculation functions to apply downward pressure to the provider's GPCD, allowing for a number that is customized to that provider, can reasonably be achieved, and reflects reductions in withdrawals of groundwater through that downward pressure on GPCDs over time. The non-per capita program is a BMP-style program for large municipal providers. Designated providers may opt into this program, and undesignated providers are required to be in this program. Significant updates were made to the BMP list for this program, and updates were made to the point targets and tiers for this program. In the industrial chapter, several sectors have proposed updates. For power plants, a minor update allows for a modification to be made to cycles of concentration requirements if blowdown water will be beneficially reused. For golf courses, the method for calculating conservation allotments was redesigned to better reflect overseeding practices and more recent consumptive use analyses. For non-golf turf facilities, the allotment calculation was split in two. A less generous calculation for facilities with greater than 30% water-intensive landscape, and a more generous calculation for facilities with less than or equal to 30% water-intensive landscape. This is designed to incentivize those more efficient types of landscapes and includes a provision to provide a consideration for parks and schools where additional turf may have functional purposes like sports fields. Finally, an alternative mining conservation program was added as a BMP style option for metal mining facilities. Finally, I would like to acknowledge that the fact that these management plans are very much a team effort, with an enormous amount of work put in by management plans and AMA staff, by other staff from the department, and with significant input from other state agencies, from GUAC members and from the regulated community. We would not be here today without the collaborative effort of all of these people and so many more. So thank you to all who contributed in any way. So with that, I thank you for your time and attention, and I'll hand it back over to John, who will be calling up our speakers. John?
All right, thank you, Natalie. So we will be now moving on to the comment portion of the hearing. For those participating via the telephone and not on the webinar who would like to make verbal comment, please state and spell your name now. We will unmute you when it is your turn to speak. If you would not like to make a comment, please simply stay silent. We will call on telephone participants to speak after the webinar participants provide their comment. So we will unmute telephone participants now. Okay. All right, we don't have anybody on the telephones currently, so I will move on to in-person comments. Please be advised that those presenting comments at the hearing, whether in person or virtually, will be subject to a 3-minute time limit to ensure all who wish to speak receive an opportunity to do so. I will now begin calling the names of the persons who filled out speaker cards here in the room. If you wish to speak and have not filled out a speaker card just yet, please fill one of the cards out near the table by the entrance and submit it to Sharon. When I call your name, please come up to the podium, state your name, state and spell your name, identify any person or entity that you represent, and then give your comments. So we have one card so far. Mark Holmes, you can come on up.
Good afternoon. Mark Holmes, M-A-R-K for Mark, H-O-L-M-E-S, and I represent the town of Chino Valley as their water advisor. I've got 2 suggestions and 2 new goals for consideration in my comments today. The first suggestion is on page 2-5, section 2.4.2. The water use figure for large water providers could be broken out into each of the large water providers, which I think would be very interesting to show as it's relating to the exempt wells. And right now, the exempt wells are the third largest aggregated water user in the Prescott AMA management area. So I think as time goes on, it would be interesting to see as the municipalities or the large water providers build out. I think it'd be interesting to see how the exempt wells continue through the proliferation of exempt wells through wildcat and dry lot subdivisions. That's the first suggestion. The second is on page 3.8, section 3.3.2. It states the use of CAP water is not economically feasible in the PRAMA due to the distance of the AMA's water users from the CAP aqueduct. Recognizing this, the city of Prescott and Yavapai Prescott Indian tribe sold their CAP allocations. Could this be reworded to say, in the late 1990s, direct deliveries of Colorado water were determined to be not economically feasible due to their distance from the CAP canal or the Colorado River. Recognizing this, the city of Prescott and the Yavapai Prescott Indian tribe sold their CAP allocations. However, future water settlement agreements with Northern Arizona Native American communities and/or non-Indian agricultural or NIA water allocations may provide Northern Arizona with future opportunities for Colorado River water. Next, new goal being proposed. Page 3-9, section 3.4. There is no mention of ADWR's commingling and volumetric accounting prohibitions, which is not an official policy guideline or rule whereby a non-designated water provider, municipal water provider, cannot recharge, store, and recover reclaimed water for certificates of assured water supply for those certificates going for a specific subdivision or a phase of a subdivision without commingling to occur. So I'm requesting that this be looked at and reevaluated. I know there is a statement in the current proposed management plan for looking at making recharge and recovery more feasible. The commingling is one issue I've been working on the department for several years trying to resolve this, and I think it's can be resolved. And lastly, it's a new goal. Communities and organizations within the PRAMA have been developing pilot projects and examining larger development, regional or community-wide storm water management projects that utilize non-appropriated urban or development sheet flow, directing it, quantifying it for recharge via constructed recharge facilities. However, under state laws, there are only 3 water supplies that can be recharged for credits that include CAP, surface water, or reclaimed water. So asking ADWR to include a goal to examine stormwater sheet flow that could gain credits, a cut to the aquifer, and statutory modifications as a goal or an objective for the 5th management plan. And with that, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Did we have anybody else who would like to submit written comment? All right, seeing none, let the record reflect that no one else in person wishes to speak or provide comment. So that takes us to virtual speaker cards. I will now be calling names of persons who filled out virtual speaker cards. If you are participating via the webinar, excuse me, and wish to speak and have not filled out a virtual speaker card, please submit the form available through the chat feature on the web address you see on the slide. When I call your name, staff will help unmute you. Please state and spell your name, identify any person or entity you represent, and then provide your comments. As a reminder, there's a 3-minute time limit. Do we have any virtual speaker cards? Not currently. All right, so no one has filled out a card indicating that they would like to present comments on the proposed management plan virtually. So let the record reflect that no one on the webinar wishes to speak. And that takes us to the telephone. Did we have anybody? Okay, so it appears we have no one participating via telephone. So that will move on. Is there anyone here who wishes to submit any written comments or evidence that they have brought with them? Mr. Holmes, I think you had comments. If you haven't already, provide those to the docket supervisor. If you do not wish to read your comments into the record, please give them to Sharon Scantlebury. If you do wish to read them into the record, please step up to the podium, state your name, identify any person or entity that you represent, and provide your comments. Do we have any other additional comments? Seeing none, let the record reflect that no one wishes to submit any written comments or evidence. As I mentioned earlier, written comments on the proposed management plan may be submitted until 5 p.m. today. If you'd like to submit written comments after the close of the hearing, but no later than 5 p.m. today, please fax or email them to Sharon Scantlebury, the docket supervisor. Her fax number is 602-771-8686, and her email address is on the public notice posted on the department's website. Sharon's business cards with her contact information are also located on the table near the entrance if you would like one. So this public hearing is now adjourned. Thank you for all who attended and providing your comments. Thank you.